Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. We are going to be having a look at SimWorks Studios Van's RV-10. Now, this is a very cool kit aircraft. It's had a lot of success. It's very sleek, lightweight, and has a monstrous 260 horsepower engine on the front. So a very cool aircraft indeed. Now, this modeling of the SimWorks version has been done very well. The actual modeling itself looks great. The textures are high res, but I would say the issue I have with them is that they're just too consistent. What I mean by that is that there's no marks anywhere on it. It's as if it came off the showroom floor. There's not a stain anywhere to be found, even underneath where the exhaust is. There's not even a smudge anywhere on there. So it's definitely a showroom model, which, it's a kit plane, and that's fine. If that's what they're going for, it's great. I would just like to see a little bit more of, just a little bit of wear here and there, but instead it's like, this blue texture that's on the wing has not been altered in any way to be the one that's on the fuselage. It's just all the exact same texturing. So, but it looks good though. I mean, it does look good. We do have a couple fingerprints on the window if you just get the sun right on there. But let's go ahead and jump in the cockpit, because that's where things start to go downhill a little bit, at least with functionality. So the cockpit is very similar to the outside with the textures. You can see the windows. They did add a little bit of scuffing on there, but the actual textures themselves are pretty much just silky smooth throughout. There's no sort of wearing or anything like that on them, which again it's fine. I would just personally like to see a little bit more of wear from use versus this is the first time the aircraft is taken off. The cockpit, you can see, is the Garmin. I can't even remember the name of the 3X or something like that. Glass cockpit. It's my least favorite version of the Garmin cockpits that you can get. But we do have a little 430 down here, which is problematic in itself, and we'll get into that in a minute. The other thing that most people will jump for right away is this little tablet down here. Now, I've got it figured out, but most of you are probably going to click on it, and it's just going to be a blank gray screen. And then you're going to look and go, oh, okay, I need to go download Sky for Sim. So you download Sky for Sim, install it, and then you have to connect to a server and then make sure it's connected to the flight simulator, and all of that comes back and says, yep, connected. And then you click on it, open it up, and it's still a gray screen. And so after doing some digging, I thought something was wrong with the Sky for Sim app, because it's a third-party app that you have to run in the background. Could find no mention of it. So I went to SimWorks Studios website and had to go through, like an FAQ and try and find out what was going on. And there's additional, what they call free and extra files that you need to download, unzip into your community folder, which overwrites some of the Sky for Sim files and also installs more stuff into your community folder in order for this to work. Once you have all of that done, you can connect with the program outside the simulator, and then this will load up. Now, this is cool. If we just have a quick look, you have a lot of really fun features in here with overlays and airport information, and so you can click on it and have you have to get the premium version to get things like weather and whatnot, but it does have a lot of cool interface options in here, and I like it. Am I going to use it all that much? Probably not. I'm actually kind of bummed I wasted the time to go through and download it. To figure out how to download it, because I have a Navigraph subscription, and I use that on a tablet or a phone in person. So having this is cool. It has additional features, such as, like, if we come over to the menu, you do get like a little whiteboard One thing that I will mention that it does have a notepad, which you can see I tested out. Let me backspace it here. But for example, if you don't use the keypad here and click on it, and you can use your keyboard to type, but say I use the letter V, it brings up whatever your keybind is for that. So that is definitely not good. Because for example, if I was to hit the letter Z for Zulu, it would disconnect my autopilot, just because I was trying to type something on here. So kind of makes that not very good. And there's other things that are in here. If you wanted to click through them, you can, check them out. But overall, I would say that, well, this is cool and unique. You do need the payware version to get a lot of things like the weather, the checklists, and stuff like that. So, I'm probably not going to use it, and kind of bummed that it caused me frustration of needing to go through all of the hassle of installing. Now, speaking of installing, uninstalling, if you have the working title Garmin 530, 430 downloaded and installed, you will not be able to use your nav mode on your autopilot. It will not capture, it will just flicker. You need to uninstall the working title version and go back to the old vanilla version, which I think is ridiculous because Asobo has the working title 430 as a core file default for all its aircraft. So the fact, and you can't even uninstall that. So the fact that this is basically like legacy at this point, and you don't get any of the great functionality that even, the stock aircraft have in order to use the autopilot is a huge issue. Moving on, as far as if you wanted to go through and follow the checklist, which we do have checklists for all the stages of flight, which is nice that they included that. Problem being is that second you get to turning on your battery, you can't check the volts or anything like that because you need your avionics on, and they don't even have avionics on until you are after starting engine. So yeah, it's little, but like if you wanted to go through and follow this, you wouldn't be able to check your gauges. So I'll go through what I have sort of done for myself on that. We'll get this fired up and talk about some other things going on with the aircraft as well. So first thing you want to do is make sure we have our fuel on. We don't know what tank yet though, because you need to have your battery on and your avionics on in order to see which tank is the fullest. They're going to be balanced right now, but that's step one, where you need your avionics on in order to even check your fuel quantity and which tank to put it on. From there, we can go ahead and go full rich on mixture, full forward on prop, and then crack the throttle. And then we can pop on our fuel pump, and we just want to make sure that we've got some flow coming from the fuel pump, which we do, and we can pop that back off. You turn that on for takeoff and landing though. From there, you're going to go ahead and back that throttle back down a little bit. You don't have to close it, just back it off, and you're going to close your mixture to cut off lean. From here, we're going to go ahead and rotate our magnetos. Except I don't know why that just went off on us. Let's try and figure that out. The avionics switch went off there. Interesting. So let's try that again. We're going to go ahead and rotate over our magnetos. As the engine catches, we are going to advance our mixture forward. And it has just crashed. So you can see we do have some issues going on there. Let's try all of that again. And we are back. Let's try that again. So battery on, alternator on, avionics on. Let all of that do its thing. We want to get our fuel on. And then we're going to bring our prop mixture forward, throttle cracked, fuel pump on. Double check that we've got some flow going there. And we do, yep. So we're good. We can go ahead and turn that off. Mixture back down. Throttle a little bit open. Okay, now let's try and turn over our magnetos and advance the throttle. Or advance the mixture, sorry. There we go. All right, so we're fired up. So I'm not running that Fly for Sim program in the background. I've had my sim crash like 4 or 5 times while trying to fly this aircraft to get used to it. I think that might be the problem of many going on with this aircraft, but if you start suffering from crashes, try not connecting with the Fly Sim. I don't even remember what it's called. For Sim Fly for Sim, Fly for Sim, Sim Sky for Sim. There we go. Sally Swim Swam Swimmy. All right, so we'll go ahead and put that away. We're not going to use that at all. So moving on, my flow is all messed up now. The advertising of this aircraft also says about that their payloads are visually represented, but which they are. So you have some luggage back there, and our co-pilot, who I've named Jimmy, is here. And if you come up to your weights and balances, you can say, oh, let's go down to 0, and bye-bye Jimmy. 101 pounds is the limit to bring him back. Now, if we go to 200, just to balance things out, that's fine. Same thing with the luggage in the back. If you take it to 0, it goes away. If you add more and more, it'll put more and more bags back there. So, kind of cool. The gripe I have with that, though, is that I can't turn him off and have my weights and balances be correct. So it's a little annoying having Jimmy bobbling his head over here when really I'd like to make him go away. As much as he's probably a nice guy. But so they've got that interaction. You can also open up the doors, which is nice to see. I do like when developers add in sort of functionality to their cockpits. You also have a glove box with this little brochure here, which I thought, hey, this would be so cool if this was how you turned on different static elements. But no, it's just a brochure that you can pull out. And we'll close that down. And this guy opens here. And the vents are movable, things like that. So, and, you know, the vents do make noise based on how much you have them going, but as far as a temperature gauge inside the cockpit, there isn't one where those actually affect anything, which would be nice to see. Circuit breakers do pop. Well, I should say you can click them. There's no random failures or wear or time or anything like that, like a study level aircraft would have, where these either would be on a random or a time-based thing where you would have to go through and check your breakers. But they are functional. If you wanted to turn one off, it does stop that unit from working. So we're currently sitting, is it Saga Island? I can't remember the name of this island, and I would not like to pronounce the name of the airport either, because it is a very Spanish name that I would butcher anyways. So we're going to do a flight from here over to St. Martin, do a little demonstration of the autopilot, and show you some other issues that I found along the way. So we're going to go ahead and get taxiing. This turns out to be issue number 1. If you start cold and dark, there's a parking brake on, but there is no parking brake lever in here that I have found, and it's not on the checklist of having a parking brake. So if you are confused by that, that's because I think it is not modeled. I have a keybind for it, and so you can see that I can turn parking brake on and off, but it is nowhere to be found in the cockpit, which will kind of be a running trait here in just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and get a little bit of power in and get us spun around here. You also notice that our flaps are down when you're cold and dark, and the flaps toggle does not animate for any keybind. We also do not have a flap indicator anywhere on our panel, so there's no way of knowing what stage of flaps you're in. And I believe this aircraft has a cruise flap, so you can see right now it's slightly up, and then there's one that's slightly down, which I think would be 0, and then you have, you know, probably like a 25 and then a 45. So the fact that you can't check that anywhere in the cockpit is a little. We are lined up. We do have a little bit of a crosswind coming on. One thing that you can do on this Garmin is, if you want to select your CDI source, you got to click on the CDI, go over to GPS. I like putting on the bearing as well to GPS or nav. Go to more options though. This is the one thing I can't live without, is your speed and direction. So you can see we've got about an 8 knots, almost full crosswind to deal with. Now there's a couple things on here that are missing, again, that are annoying. So your trim is technically on top of your stick here. There's no trim wheel in here, so if you're looking for one, there isn't one. The way this works is like a hat switch on a yoke, where these would be your elevator and these would be your aileron. We do have a elevator trim indicator there, but we do not have an aileron, so there's no way of knowing when your ailerons are centered, and this aircraft definitely needs aileron trim, which is functional. It just, you have no indication of what it's doing, similar to your flaps. So we're going to go ahead, and we've got our autopilot configured here for heading mode and up to 2,500 feet. We're going to rotate at 60 knots, climb out at about 105, then get our en route climb to about 120. We're going to engage the autopilot pretty quickly though, because this autopilot does work very well as long as you do not have the working title Garmin installed. As far as lights go, we've got our upper panel here with all your external and internal lights. We'll turn the panel lights up. So we have our nav lights, strobe light, landing lights, taxi lights are off. Wig wag is your landing lights, wig wagging, so flashing backwards and forwards on there. So let's go ahead and get on into the air. This will help demonstrate its crosswinds capabilities as well, because it is going to be a little much for this little guy. So I've got quite a bit of rudder in, turning into the winds, rotating, not bad at all. A little hard to hold straight, but that wasn't too bad. Alright, so there's 100. Bring that nose down a little bit more to get us closer to that 120. And let's go ahead and just pop on that autopilot, get our yaw dampener on. We'll go straight onto heading mode and then indicated airspeed mode. And that locks us on the indicated airspeed that we're at. And we can just say, yeah, let's go take that to 120. Now remember what I said about the oil temp? We're already in that yellow. It happens quick in this aircraft, so you want to reduce your RPMs down. I found that really going down to about 2,400 is when you can get it back in the green and back off the manifold pressure a little bit. You can see that temp is dropping down. We're climbing out at 1350. So, you know, as far as hey Jimmy, as far as takeoff goes, it feels good. You know, that was nice. This is a very light, sleek aircraft, so it handled that crosswind very well. I'd say the initial wobbling on the runway was down to me on the pedals versus the aircraft itself. We're already coming up to 2,500 feet, and I did get, oh, I've got everything crashed, so I need to open it up here. Where's it at? I do have This guy made I think he's a real world pilot that made it for his aircraft and combined some stuff from the checklists though. So there's a full checklist up there, but you also get your cruise power settings. So at 2,500 feet, if we wanted to do a full cruise there, we're going to be at, let's call it 26.1 at, yeah, 2,200 RPMs. So let's bring this down to, yeah, we actually need to bring that up right about there and bring our RPMs down to 2,200. There we go. Now we do have an EGT in here as well, which is functional and works pretty good. So you want to back off your mixture, watch for that to peak. Now this aircraft is designed to be run lean of peak. So backing that off. There's peak, so we'll keep on going just a little bit more. Right around there will be fine. So there we go. We're set up for our cruise and we're trucking along. 172 is our indicated airspeed. So I'm going to rotate us over on our heading mode here. I'll get a flight plan loaded, which is just going to be a direct to St. Martin, and then we'll fly a RNAV in. Now, I'll demonstrate when we're in our cruise heading over to St. Martin about the autopilot. It does a little bit of that old school wobble that if you've been flying Flight Simulator for a while, back in the early days, that was a big issue with almost all aircraft, that they just had this sort of roll left and right, and it gradually got worse and worse and worse. So once we're over in, you know, a little bit further along on the cruise, we'll demonstrate that. One other piece that I imagine will cause some frustration for some people, I wanted to test out the Sunvisor, which typically you would grab and drag over and position it how you want. Well, if you grab this, that's what it does. But try and get it back. If you have basically 3 clicks on your mouse wheel rolling it. So there's one, there's there, and then, you know, I can kind of use it. Typically that arm would be able to extend, I think, and then back up. But for people that do not use a mouse wheel, such as Xbox users, let's see. We should be making our turn here. Let's see if it's going to do it. You can see we've got that wobble going on. There it goes. Same again. It's like it's got old school issues going on with it, where typically the aircraft will follow that, because really we're going to turn past it now and play this little S game while we catch up. So another interesting thing is, well, we have captured the glide slope. We have not, according to the Garmin. It is descending as we should, but the little diamond there is still up above, which is another inconsistency there. Now you can see that we are starting to wobble quite a bit. I gotta bring that airspeed back. I also feel like we're too low already, but I'll have to disengage at some point here. I'm gonna come full forward on our mixture, full forward on prop. Haven't introduced any flaps yet. Yeah, according to the poppy lights, we are low. Yep, see, and there's that dip. That is definitely no bueno. I got trying to adjust my trim to make up for that. So definitely issues going on with the autopilot. Get us back up to where we need to be and try and get this little lady on the ground. It's a shame because this is such a cool aircraft with a lot of, I mean, this thing is fast. All right, we're going to go ahead and introduce some flaps that you cannot see the toggle switch or what degrees I've put them at, or notch. I will say, I'm not sure if you could hear that, but you can hear the electronical trim working, which is a nice touch. Alright, I don't know if that's full flaps. I don't think this is full flaps. And we got one more notch after this, so going pretty slow though. As far as like, I don't like putting in, maybe that was full flaps. Who's to know? That wind is definitely still a blowing. But it landed okay. I mean, autopilot for an approach, definitely get ready with your finger on a disconnect button there because it was about to dump me again. Pop those brakes on. All right, final thoughts. If you watched this whole video, you saw a litany of bugs, errors, missing functionality, all sorts of stuff going on there. To summarize them though, probably the most frustrating for people first off the bat is going to be the wonderful tablet and having to go even try and figure out how to make this thing work. And then Sky for Sim seems to be at least crashing my computer, well, my flight simulator. I have a rock solid flight simulator as well. It never crashes. So it's only since I put that on there that we had that crash that I recorded. We have the issues with the autopilot and needing to uninstall the working title Garmin, which is a pain, especially since while you can capture the nav mode, that you get the waggling that happens when you're in either heading mode or nav mode, and it's like chasing itself and it gradually gets worse and worse. And we saw coming in that all of a sudden it just wanted to dump me. It also did not follow the glide slope correctly, and the diamond was never even down into the middle. The issues with the trim, the flaps, all of that stuff, the checklist, in order to follow it, you would have to go out of order completely. In fact, I can't turn Jimmy off. It's not a finished product yet. It really isn't. I'm really bummed about that. I hate to say it, but SimWorks Studios needs to do better. They need to make sure that these things are worked out before they release something. And I'm sure they're going to say that it's a marketplace thing, and that because of the working title and the way it ties into whatever their programming is, and that all might be true, but all the other developers have been able to integrate the working title and also have working autopilots and have their tablet functionality work out of the gate without having to go seek free extras, quote unquote, to make it work. So for me, this is definitely a hold off until they update it. Once they do, I'll make another video to see if those changes stuck and that it's worth flying around in. At this time, I will not be flying this until they fix it. So sorry to end on a downer, and typically I have really nice things to say about most of the aircraft I have. This one, unfortunately, I do not. So until next time, take care.